Pregnant or planning? Get holistic support with 9 and Beyond, your trusted pregnancy companion.
Generally, छोटे बच्चे के अंदर the head is always warmer than the body. By just touching the forehead of the child, you can't call it a fever. But that's not the correct way of measuring the fever.
The child is uncontrollable and crying. Then what?
Sometimes it's also anxiety which makes the child cry and the parents are not around.
Is pacifier recommended for babies?
No, pacifiers is not recommended for children.
Are there any medicines which should be kept at home for all the stuff which we have discussed?
They have to be prescribed. It can't be that you visited your pediatrician maybe 6 months back, 8 months back, and that's the last time your baby's weight has been checked. And today you have the medications and the prescription and you're using that again after 6-8 months. It's not going to work in the same dose. Your child has gained weight, growth and development has happened.
Another thing which comes to my mind is diarrhea.
Dehydration is the biggest complication that happens in children of diarrhea. So all the mother or the parent needs to do is substitute ORS. A regular lemon water is also fine, an elder child.
Children tend to throw the food around. How do you handle that?
It's something like a game to them. You know,
Right.
pick and throw, pick and throw. They do it with the balls, they do it with anything that comes.
Hello and namaste. Once again, your friend and guide Sonia Pava from 9 and Beyond here for you with one more specialist, actually, who's been with us earlier also, and happy to bring her back because of her wisdom, her knowledge, and your questions to be answered. So today we have with us
Dr. Rucheta Kale. Very warm welcome to you, Netaji. Welcome here, taking out your time and be here with us once again. And
for your knowledge, she is a very famous practicing, actually a private practitioner pediatrician from Mumbai. Besides being a private practitioner, first thing, she is being empowered with a postgraduate degree in child nutrition. She has also qualification of being a child mental health specialist as well as child sexual abuse specialist from prestigious college of Nimans at Bengaluru. Besides that, extending her boundaries outside her clinic, she has also been a project medical officer at UNICEF, taking care of initiatives on early child development, child growth, and nutrition over there. Doesn't end here. Her passion for everything which is related to a child's health, she extends her lectures and workshops and empowers even professionals and parents with her workshops on breastfeeding, again, child nutrition, early childhood development. And again, it doesn't end here. Her passion takes her on these initiatives back into whichever department she can find she is of use to help grow everything which is related to child growth and child development. So thank you so much to Chetaji for being here. We are really honored
that you have come here, taken out your very valuable time and to empower now our audience once again with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. The last podcast was also amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's amazing to connect back with you to spread this awareness and education to child health.
Absolutely. They are the future of our country and we need to make them strong in health.
Yeah.
Value-wise, medically, physically, mentally, holistically, right? So today with her, we will be covering basically basic child health issues, right? जैसे आप हमें पता है जब बच्चा आता है वो अपने मैनुअल के साथ आता है, nothing goes by the book with the child, and especially for new parents, it becomes every small thing becomes an issue because बच्चे इतने delicate होते हैं कि इंसान डर जाता है, right? बट ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं जो घर में भी देखी जा सकती हैं, लेकिन कितना घर में देखना है, कब डॉक्टर के पास जाना है, ये नॉलेज होना आज के दिन में बहुत ज़रूरी है विद द काइंड ऑफ इन्फेक्शंस वी हैव अराउंड अस, द काइंड ऑफ डिजीजेस वी हैव अराउंड अस. बट लाइक यू हैव टू हैव द राइट बैलेंस कि हर फीवर कोई डिजीज़ नहीं है, लेकिन फीवर को इग्नोर कब करना है और उसको अटेंशन कब देना है, ये सब चीज़ों की ही नॉलेज के लिए आज सुचेता जी हमारे बीच में है. सो लेट्स बिगिन विद basic stuff of, like, since I mentioned fever, what exactly is the normal temperature of the baby, and when do you call it fever? How do you know this is fever? Like, so.
Okay. So, fever generally is when an infection or an inflammation happens in the body और आपका brain उसको respond करता है. So, it's a response from the brain by raising the temperature of the body to tell you that there's an infection or an inflammation happening in the body. Just like you have a notification on your phones that comes,
Right.
very similar to that, it's a notification that pops up to your body, and that's what we call it in a very layman language as a fever. A child's normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees. And when it goes to 100.4, that is when we define it as fever.
Okay.
Else, it is not fever.
ओके. सो जैसे कभी कभी होता है ना, आप बच्चे के माथे को टच करते हैं, हमेशा लगता है कि गर्म है. सो हाउ डू यू नो कि ये फीवर है कि नहीं है?
Yeah. So, see, by just touching the forehead of the child, you can't call it a fever. Generally, छोटे बच्चे के अंदर, the head is always warmer than the body.
Okay.
So that's where whenever you touch the head, you feel it's warmer than the body. But that's not the correct way of measuring the fever. Unmeasured body temperature cannot be called a fever. Unless it's a very high grade, that's okay. But otherwise, always measure the child's body temperature with a thermometer, a basic simple digital thermometer. You place the thermometer in the armpit in the correct way in the child's armpit, and a recording comes up. And if it's 100.4, then and then you call it a fever. Else it's not a fever, and then nothing needs to be done otherwise.
Okay. So suppose it is 100.4 fever, and now we need to do something about it. So should we immediately turn to a pediatrician, or पहले कुछ घर में हम रेमेडी कर सकते हैं, या हमें करना भी चाहिए घर की रेमेडी?
Yeah, so basically home remedy, see, one spike of fever can be ignored, a low grade fever. So दो types होते हैं. Suppose it's a low grade fever or it's a high grade fever.
Right.
So 100.4 fever is a very low grade fever. If you have an antipyretic, that is a basic simple paracetamol prescribed by your pediatrician prior with the correct weight, you can give that. Nothing else apart from that should be given. You can monitor a fever for a while, and if your child is active, playful, nothing much to be done. However, a high grade fever hota hai jab, so then a high grade fever requires sponging to be done, 102 fever or so. So wahan pe you need to do a sponging to reduce the fever of your baby.
Okay. So then when do you turn to a pediatrician? Like,
Yeah, so generally first 2-3 days of fever or 3 days of fever is generally a viral illness. It's not so,
even if it goes high?
even if a high grade fever can be more so a viral illness, or bacterial only when it's, so the focus of fever needs to be understood of a child. And the idea here to understand by every parent is, it's not just to reduce the temperature. You are managing fever at home to reduce the discomfort of the child.
Okay.
So you need to reduce and focus on the discomfort of the child. So low grade में दिया paracetamol or something, and अगर नहीं है तो then maybe monitor, and if the fever is persisting, you can visit your pediatrician. A high grade fever at home can be reduced by tepid sponging. So ठंडा पानी नहीं लगाना है.
Okay.
It's a tepid sponging, 28-30 degrees
Room temperature?
room temperature, and you need to sponge your child from the head to the toe in a short span of time, so like about 15-20 minutes. And this constant tepid sponging, there's a moving film of water, so the principles of physics, so there's conduction principle, so jahan se all the body heat comes down, and that fever at that point can be settled, and then you can go visit your pediatrician.
Perfect. So, doctor, one important question about the fever part was the clothing. So what should be done?
Okay. So generally what happens and what we see is, when a child is having a fever, parents tend to cover them and swaddle them, and it's so much of blankets and jackets and things like that. Generally not required. A regular linen clothing is fine. Yes, I'm not talking of the cold countries and things like that. But then in a regular temperature, which is about 20, 26, 27, a regular cotton linen clothing is good.
And then, as we said, that we just need to reduce the discomfort of the child by reducing. It's not just about the temperature, but you reduce the discomfort. So
Address the fever as it is. It's a low grade or a high grade, and the clothing should be fine. You don't need to do
Sometimes it can come with a little bit of shivering.
Yeah.
So,
So shivering generally happens in a high grade fever. So when you do a tapered sponging and with a paracetamol, and then once a paracetamol given and then you add on a tapered sponging, I think with that, so a sponging should not be done in with a fan running or with an AC with a temperature of 22s and 23s, not that way. So because you actually removing all the clothes, doing a tapered sponging of the child, and then you air dry or when you towel dry the child, and then you make the child wear the clothes. So I think shivering comes when the temperature it's too cold or you've used cold water and things like that. But otherwise, a tapered sponging will remove the regular pathological shivering that the child has.
okay. So you don't have to worry about कि बच्चा शिवर कर रहा है तो उसको पहले कपड़े पहनाओ फिर स्पंज कैसे करें.
No,
It
no,
has to
no.
be
First you sponge the child and then
it'll take care of it.
yeah, I'll take care of it.
Thank you. You know, generally, जब बच्चों को कोई भी तकलीफ होती है, they really start crying a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes that crying goes beyond a parent's, you know, they stretch their boundaries. उन्हें समझ ही नहीं आता है कि उन्होंने सब कुछ ठीक कर लिया, बच्चा इतना रो क्यों रहा है. How do you define that? How do you take care of that?
Yeah. So crying in children has multiple angles to it. However, a crying child could be an exhausted child, can cry so much. A very colicky child might cry a lot. There could be children with soiled diapers. So urine and stools and soiled diapers tend to cry a lot. Sometimes children have not slept well. Then also they might cry a lot. And then diaper rashes are there. Then children tend to cry. And then sometimes it's also anxiety which makes the child cry. And the parents are not around. The people are not around to take care of the child. That's where also the child keeps crying. You need to recognize. So what you need to do as an adult is pick up the patterns of cry. Keep watching your child and you'll know a pattern. Every child does have a pattern of its own. So you need to know when the child needs to be picked up or the child needs to be fed. So even a hunger cue, like a late hunger cry is also a form of cry. So when the child
needs to be fed, or then just be soothed for a bit, just needs a parental help. That's when also the child can be rested. How to console the child is a basic rocking in the chair, the front to back rocking or side to side rocking, skin to skin contact, the kangaroo on the care.
You hold the child very close to your chest and the abdomen. And apart from that, yes, if the child is hungry, then the food or the breast milk needs to be given to the child. Soiled diapers need to be changed immediately. So the moment a child passes urine and stool, please change the diapers. The child doesn't like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And apart from that, then there are pathological causes. So it could be ear infections, it could be a urinary tract infection, it could be brain infections, it could be oral thrush, which could be a little bit, disturbing the child. But that all needs to be visited to a pediatrician. And only then, but these still might be consolable cries. These can be visited to a pediatrician.
No, but so this is when what doctor, like what you're telling is like, ये सब कुछ देख लिया,
हाँ,
बच्चा रो रहा है, आपने सब कुछ चेक कर लिया, everything tick mark in the box, and yet the child is uncontrollable and crying. Then what?
So, okay. Also know that you're not a bad parent.
Right.
Children tend to cry and they also have their patterns. They want to adapt in a way. So they do tend to cry. And sometimes also if you ask they're crying, that's okay. But an inconsolable cry, and when you need to visit a pediatrician, comes where the child is lethargic. The child is a very different behavior than a normal one. It's a regular cry is fine, but a different pattern or a different behavior is a lethargic child, is very, very weak, not eating well, not passing urine well, or is turning blue while crying, or has a distended tummy or an abdomen. That's also when you need to take the child immediately to the physician.
So the loud bawling is not the criteria that the child has to do. It is the other symptoms related to the crying which has to be concentrated upon, right?
Yes.
So the next common thing which parents face is like, बहुत common, cold, cough, congestion, जिसकी वजह से बच्चे सो नहीं पाते हैं. So Why does it happen? How do you take care of it? Ghar pe. When do you turn to a pediatrician again? Like, yeah.
Okay, this is interesting because
Yeah.
a cough and cold, we as pediatricians say should not
Not be generally managed at home. See, in the summer season, the change of seasons.
There will be allergic reasons, there could be seasonal change of seasons, and then there could be other reasons of cough as well.
Okay.
Cough generally needs to be auscultated, seen, and checked by a doctor and your pediatrician, and
Okay.
then should be addressed. However, a cold, which is if it is too much sneezing, again a pediatrician. But then if it's just a blocked nose, and for a basic help at home, normal saline drops that are available, maybe just the normal saline drops you can administer in the nose of the child, so that it just the mucosa which is totally blocked and just come down a little bit. And apart from that, yes, there are basic saline nebulizations. So just in case if you have a nebulization or some fumes, the pediatric ones that are available with you, maybe you can give them, but then not the other medicated ones, just the saline ones.
Okay.
And I think in that condition, you should best visit, if not the same day, then the other day, but then you should visit your pediatrician in case of cold, cough,
And congestion.
and
So basically, this is one thing which should not be really treated at home because you don't know where the child is heading, right?
Correct.
So earlier the better to go to the pediatrician.
yes.
Perfect. So like, doctor, जैसे आपने बोला कि cough, cold में you must visit, you must get it diagnosed, right? So what exactly are the symptoms you should pick up कि बस जाना ही चाहिए?
Okay, so an immediate going to a pediatrician should come from that you open the clothes of your child, watch the chest, and watch the neck and the chest of your baby. And it'll be breathing. If your baby is breathing faster than the regular normal breathing, so a mouth breathing is okay, and a blocked nose might give you a mouth breathing, which is fine. But apart from that, there is a nasal flaring. So your nose, the nose, and when you watch the nose, there's a nasal flaring there.
Okay.
And if you see pits, so there might be pits or dips in the subcostal region, that's the chest area or the neck area. That's when also you can pick up that this is a faster breathing and there's congestion, and then this needs to be addressed immediately. Or then you have a wheezing audible sound that's coming out, something like something like
जैसे खर की आवाज
हाँ.
आती है या breathing में वो एक heaviness होती है like
Correct. So if any sounds are also audible, or then maybe you see
fast breathing in the pits and dips, then you should not be waiting.
the pits and dips of chest and stomach.
Yeah, the chest and the neck. So generally
neck.
the chest and the neck. Okay, so that's when you'll recognize that you need to
Turn to the doctor immediately.
Yes. Okay.
Now, another thing which comes to my mind is diarrhea, right? Which I think, if ignored, can be very dangerous because babies are so delicate, right? So, number one, I think we really need to explain to our parents what is diarrhea, how do you define diarrhea, and what should be done at home, and how soon to go to the doctor.
Okay. So diarrhea in children is a change in frequency and consistency of stool.
Right.
Frequency means the number of stool, and consistency means is it a formed stool or is it a watery stool?
Right.
Okay. So a frequency more than 3 per day in 24 hours, or then a consistency which is like a runny, watery stool passage is defined as a diarrhea in children. Coming next here is there are children who are eating a lot of veggies, a lot of grains, sometimes also caffeine, sometimes also carbonated drinks, which is where the sugar and the carbonated drinks just pass out in the intestine faster, and they tend to be passing stool 3-4 times a day or more on a regular basis. That cannot be considered diarrhea alone frequency, because if it's a formed stool which is coming out.
Okay.
But then if it's a watery stool, then with the frequency, that is when the diarrhea comes into picture. A diarrhea at home needs simple management of hydration. Dehydration is the biggest complication that happens in children of diarrhea. So all the mother or the parent needs to do is substitute ORS. A regular lemon water is also fine in an elder child, but then oral rehydration solutions need to be given You can give dal water, rice water, coconut waters, purees and soups, and
Right.
also probiotics need to be given. So like curds and buttermilk. So probiotics also give a good effect in cases of diarrhea. Dehydration is going to lead to a lot of electrolyte imbalances. Dehydration is it's going to be
Right.
affecting the child. So that needs to be done. Also, make sure that the ORS that you're preparing is prepared in the correct way. So there are two forms of ORS, a 200 ml and a 1 liter one.
Right.
So open the sachet, wash your hands, open the sachet, mix in exact constituent of water that is required.
Right.
And when you do that, and add in the full sachet. So make a full sachet, make a full quantity, and then give as much as
The child drinks. Do not force the child to have all the ORS at the same time. Because the child might puke. You must be wanting to just pull down the dehydration part. But actually, what happens is you tend to just do it too much and the child starts puking. So that cannot again be a small quantity and a sips of water.
or sips of ORS to be started,
Right.
and as much as the child can tolerate.
Right.
Rest you can store it for a while and then re-administer closed lid and closed bottle neck, and then you can always re-administer. And always know you need to keep a watch on the activity of your child. So your child is active, playful, passing urine properly or not. Passing stool is anyways going to happen, but then the behavior, activity, urine output of the child always needs to be noted and known before you go to your
Yeah, I think that's a very important criteria. I remember from my kid's childhood, when you turn to the doctor, he says, खा रहा है अच्छे से, खेल रहा है अच्छे से, सो रहा है अच्छे से, फिक्र मत करो.
हाँ.
अगर ये चीजें इम्पैक्टेड हैं, जरूरत से ज्यादा सो रहा है, लेजी हो रहा है, खा पी ठीक से नहीं रहा है, चिड़चिड़ापन है, that means something is wrong, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And any which ways, if it's also persisting, like you feel that it's not happening or it's not working,
Yeah.
maybe a day you've tried or 2 days you've tried and it's not working, then of course you should, because with younger children you don't know
Yeah.
when that dehydration sets in, or then maybe you're not able to pick up, you're a first time mom and sometimes you're not able to pick up, then I think you should visit. And generally, what is the cause of diarrhea? So it's a viral infection, it's a bacterial or a
Okay.
parasitic infection.
Okay.
Less than 2 years is generally a rotavirus. And then clean sanitation needs to be maintained, because in unclean sanitation, unhygienic hands and the water or everything is going to add on to the diarrhea of the child. So you need to take care of your environmental and your home care needs
Yes.
to be done very, very well.
When you have a baby at home,
Yes.
yeah, everything has to be super hygienic.
Bottle feeding as well.
Yeah, bottle feeding is a cause of
Yes,
diarrhea.
bottle feeding as well. So because understand, we are in India,
Yeah,
okay, and we are in one of the most infectious countries in the world.
right.
So that same bottle, and even with the pacifiers, but there's germs and worms everywhere. So it goes down, it puts in the baby, puts it in back in the mouth,
Oh,
and that
That's-
cycle keeps continuing. So again, that adds on to the diarrhea.
right. It brings me to a question. Is pacifier recommended for babies?
No, pacifiers is not recommended for children. I think it's the same thing as nipple feed in younger children. Breastfeed versus nipple feed is a nipple confusion.
Right.
The other part to it being the same,
Right.
pacifiers are causes of infections and a lot of infections. So then it might be bloody diarrhea as well. Sometimes there could be other things, and dehydration adds on. So pacifiers, the tooth problems, the dental decays, the ear infections, all of this are cause of,
So don't use outside pacifiers. You be the pacifier for your child, right? 100%. So diarrhea also brings me to abdominal pain, vomiting. Does it happen along with diarrhea, or it can be a separate issue in itself also?
It can be both.
Yeah.
It can be all together, or it can be one at a time.
Right.
In either case, even if it's a vomiting, all you need to do is you just need to give a good hydration to your child.
Right.
Yes, sometimes your pediatrician has already given an anti-emetic or an ondansetron or something. And if you know the correct dose, then once you can give it, settle it down half an hour later, then you give some food or something. But every time pre-meal, half an hour before that, maybe you can give it. However, also you don't know the cause of vomiting, right? So with vomiting and abdominal pain, and you must visit your pediatrician. So oral rehydration solutions or a rehydration therapy is the only thing that you should be doing in case of diarrhea, vomiting. For an abdominal pain, suppose if it's a teenager coming to us and if it's a spasmodic pain, yes, maybe an antispasmodic might work. But then younger children, what is the cause of an abdominal pain? There are multiple causes of that. Again, does it have a bloated abdomen? Is there constipation with it? Is there just diarrhea, vomiting? Is there regular infection? We don't know what's the cause of an abdominal pain. So abdominal pain should
be, or you should get
or any
diagnosed.
surgical cause.
Absolutely.
Surgical
It
cause.
should not
And
be
is ignored. Or so it should not be ignored.
Yeah. And even vomiting, I think. Like,
Yeah.
beyond a certain point, again, vomiting can also cause a dehydration, like,
100%.
and it can do it really fast.
Yeah.
So should be taken care of, right? So, are there any medicines which should be kept at home for all the stuff which we have discussed, or no? We should not have any basic medicines at home.
No, so of course, basic medications, if prescribed, so first criteria is of keeping medications will be they have to be prescribed by your pediatrician. Not that you are going buying medications all by yourself and doing it. No. Second part to it, it can't be that you visited your pediatrician maybe 6 months back, 8 months back, and that's the last time your baby's weight has been checked. And today you have the medications and the prescription and you're using that again after 6-8 months. It's not going to work in the same dose because your child has gained weight, growth and development has happened, that weight gain has happened.
Right.
So those same medications might act in your baby, but they will not act in the same dose. So you need to know the correct doses.
So the body weight is very important. In pediatrics, especially.
Yes.
The body weight defines the dose which the child is supposed to get, right?
Yes. So body weight is important. So yes, basically, maybe so this could be a home kit, or even if you want a little bit different in the travel kit, but then same home kit or travel kit if you make.
I was going to come to the travel kit later, but yeah, you can put it together. Yeah.
So it's going to be the same, something like
a paracetamol for fever. Regular thermometer also
you can keep at home because you always need to check the fever before you administer something.
Right.
So those two for fever. For cough and cold, just a basic saline drops and a nebulization, regular saline neb or nothing else. For the diarrhea, vomiting, your oral rehydration solutions that you need to give. That could be your diarrhea, vomiting part. For inconsolable cries, there's as such nothing more but to being an act to the child. Yes, some anti-itching medications again prescribed by your pediatrician can be kept. Nowadays, yes, sunscreens as well. And
it's okay to use sunscreen on baby skin?
It is okay if medicated and if
prescribed by your pediatrician. Not otherwise, not the present time without being prescribed. Nothing without being prescribed. Nothing without being prescribed. And then moisturizers.
The baby ones, that again the medicated ones. So some children do have dry skin. Some children also when you're traveling or at home. So those basic things, and then correct size of diapers in the diaper bags and the correct size of diapers to change the diaper as frequently as possible. Some cotton balls and cotton rolls and band-aids. Basic band-aids need to be, or a gauze and a band-aid. And an antiseptic cream as well. So basic antiseptic cream can also go in your
small bruises and cuts.
Yeah, for small bruises
and whatever.
Cuts could be there. And the cotton roll more so comes also for stopping some, is for the bruises and cuts also, and for the diapers, because I think I always mention that diaper rash.
I was going to come because since you mentioned diapers, I said, okay, most important thing, diaper rash.
Yeah. So the diaper rash is also like, why does a diaper rash happen? It's a moisture catching area. So whenever a child soils the diaper and the moisture is collected, now you take a wet wipe, you clean it, and the moment you clean it, there's also that moisture stuck there, and you make the baby wear the diaper. That's gonna again add on the moisture, and then constantly the child has worn that diaper, it's gonna cause a rash. However, when you take a cotton ball, dab it in some warm water, dab it on the skin of the child, on the back of the child. Let it air dry. Air drying is
Sure.
very, very important. So let it air dry. And once it's air dried, then you make the child wear the diaper. That moisture is not going to be caught inside. So you'll be preventing a lot of diaper rash with that. However, when you're traveling, wipes are okay. When in conditions and practical scenarios, it's fine. It's not that it's not okay. But then again, let it always air dry. And then again, in the kit, you can carry a diaper rash medication, something. If you
It brings me to a question coming from my time actually. I remember used to pat them dry, air dry, and sometimes use a light talcum powder so that they are
Just fine.
dry. Is
Which
that okay?
Yeah, which is fine.
Because now off late, what I'm hearing is talcum powders are a no for baby.
It is a no. So again, we don't prescribe talcum powders unless the medicated ones. But in practical scenarios, and if sometimes it's just to soothe, and if the talcum powder is not having, so like again, non-scented ones and
Got
the
it.
ones which are very, very pure, which is also rare to get. That's
Right.
why we generally say no for
New
it.
talcum powders.
Yeah, but then if they are the non-scented ones and the good ones and the medicated ones, then it's okay.
Then it's okay.
Yeah,
In very minimum quantity
Yeah.
as possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one more very important thing is fussy eaters.
So fussy eaters. So fussy eaters brings me to the concept of who are fussy eaters generally.
Yeah.
So yes, adolescents could be fussy eaters. There could be younger children who are just stuck on the screens, which could be fussy eaters. But then if you go on a younger age, then the terrible two. So the 2 years ones, the ones who are 2 years old, we call them like the terrible two.
Right.
They are developmentally so curious about everything. So now at an age of 2, they want to explore everything. They're developmentally growing. Their growths are changing. And then that curiosity brings them to being really fussy eaters. So for fussy eaters, all you need to start doing first is why. So of course, if it's a screen, remove it. If it's other distractions which are not acceptable for the child, you need to remove it. However, you set an example for your baby. So the child needs to eat with the family on the table every day, the breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever is happening. It has to be with the family. The child is a part of the family and needs to understand that the child doesn't have to eat alone. The child has to eat with the family, with the parents and the grandparents or whoever.
Right.
Then a responsive feeding. So if just in case for younger children, if you are feeding, so even without the spoon, maybe with your own hands, you should be feeding your child. With 2 years of age, they are table trained and they should be eating their food by themselves. But they make sure that there's not so much distraction. They have to look at their food, chew their food, process the food, and that they have to enjoy the process of eating.
Right.
What is served to them is important. Okay, so junk should not be on table
At home, gently for children. And if you are eating junk, your child is going to eat junk.
So you said that example again. So no junk food, good home-based food is important to be served. Serve in generally a large plate and small portions.
Okay.
So when you serve in a little larger plate and a smaller portion, the child is not overwhelmed that too much food is there. So then the child might want to eat. Also the color of food. So and the textures of food. So if it's different colors and a full plate is served, and if it's different colors, the child will want to it. It's interesting. So the child will want to eat that food.
Okay.
Also textures. When you're serving salads and fruits to the child, then you need to cut them in different shapes or different sizes, so the child enjoys and feels something new is happening here.
Okay.
And the child's not bored with food. They do get bored with their food very easily. So that, apart from that, when you are going out and shopping or grocery shopping, involve your child to pick up the fruits and vegetables, what they want to eat.
Okay.
Not the junk section, but the fruits and vegetables and the basic, grains, and let them pick up things. And when you cooking, so I know now a lot of cooks and nannies and all of that, but then whenever the food's made at home, allow the child to be part of the process of making food.
Okay.
So not near the gas and not near
Of course.
the electricity points, but in a safe way. So let the child be around the dough, let the child see the dough, and even if needed a bit, that's fine.
Right.
But then
If the child has also seen that or been a part of the process of cooking, the child will want to the they look forward to it because it's a reward also. I know they made it and they want to eat it.
So it's something like a reward to the child, which also makes it very interesting. And the last to it comes that if you like the food, whatever you liking, your tastes and interests, go ahead and keep saying it that, oh, I really like this and things like that. But if you do not like it, never mention it in front of the child because it's very important, because your dislikes cannot be told to the child, because that might be sometimes the child might like it. I mean, some fruit or vegetable that you don't like it, but your child might like it. But if it's not coming at your house, or if you're or if you're mentioning that you dislike it, the child might not even try it. So allow the child to take his or her own decisions of likes and dislikes.
With your food. I think that might resolve. I think the bottom line is teach them to respect. Yes, that is very important. Yeah, that is very important.
Yeah, food manners, table manners, prayers,
Yeah.
or being thankful and grateful
Yeah.
before eating. All that is very important.
And like it's the relationship with the food which basically makes the child in the long run, right?
Yes.
So it's very important that the food should be friendly to the child.
Hmm.
The atmosphere should be very friendly. And of course, while feeding the child, no TV and no
Screens, no TV.
because
Absolutely.
people distract the child in today's time with the screen and they keep putting food into their mouth,
Correct.
which is not a mindful way of.
Yeah.
Even for the child, it's not mindful. The mind is somewhere else, right?
Correct. So the child has to have the mind on the food. And then, of course, when a family is sitting on a dining table, there's already a communication happening, a conversation, something is happening. So that process is also to be enjoyed, and the child has to be involved in that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is the most important part.
But only one thing, you make a child sit on a child chair, you give them food. Children tend to throw the food around. How do you handle that? Should you allow, not allow? What should it be like?
So again, there are two aspects to the throwing of food. So it could be two things. One is like basic normal behavior. Every child,
Yeah.
it's something like a game to them.
Right.
Pick and throw,
Okay.
something like that. They do it with the balls. They do it with anything that comes.
They need to be made to understand that this is your food. You cannot throw it. So, someday disciplining your child is important. Making the child know
That's what you're gonna eat, and you can't be throwing it.
all the time. So, till it is a normal basic behavior, it's fine.
But if the child is angry and throwing it, pulling his or her hair and head and banging and all that, and then throwing it, then it needs to be addressed, because a temper tantrum or an anger issue in child. And why exactly is the child doing that then? Then are you not available in the meal times for your children? Is the child eating alone? Is the child too much on screens? Is the child not liking the food that you're giving all the time? Because you might not be changing the food. The child requires different food. They like varieties, they like textures, they like colors, and you don't need to add artificial colors. All you need to do is the natural. Suppose it's a beetroot's going to give you red, a carrot's going to give you orange, white
Is there in your cabbages or flowers as well when they're steamed veggies and things like that? And I think that's about it.
maybe if you're making a paratha, also a spinach paratha is green, and a methi paratha again could be green, but a palak paratha or a palak is
Or even a carrot paratha. Whatever.
yeah. So the color,
Try to create colors for
yeah, and then there are molds also available in the market. So
Yeah.
when you make small molds of stars and
Yeah.
Saturns, and then the child starts. So that's when you start. But then later on, it has to convert, and then the child has to eat a full
Yeah.
proper meal at home. However,
Right.
those are manners, and those are disciplining the child and not being strict or angry on the child.
Yeah.
But disciplining the child is important.
And when they're eating their dals or gravies or curds and all, they are going to spill it,
Which is okay.
which is fine.
Which is
right?
fine.
That's why I'm specifically mentioning this, because it's okay to allow the child to be messy. Am I right?
Of course, the child has to pick
It's the
messy.
food which they feel is
Yeah.
what they want.
Correct. They have to feel the food, they have to
Yes.
enjoy, they have to like it. Spilling also is part of the journey. So like you can't expect an eat and clean child 24 hours. That's not gonna happen. Like how else do they sustain and survive? That's their actual basic living. So that's okay.
So, talking about food, would you say, I mean, like certain kind of nutritionally rich foods which you would want to advise them for children, especially when they are, the things we are talking about during fever, cold, cough, diarrhea, or other ones also. Like any advice on food?
See, in all these illnesses, your child might tend to not want so much food.
Right.
So, which is okay. So, hydration is good. Sometimes, yes, fermented food also works well, but home based fermented. So, a probiotic effect is given by fermented food as well.
Okay.
And I think a child with fever is not going to eat so much. So, it
Yeah.
might be a decrease in appetite. Any which ways in any of the conditions, as a decrease in appetite is fine, but no appetite is
Yeah.
an issue. No appetite needs to be addressed. So, just like we said, a basic coconut water or curries or soups, some hot soups if they like it, or then lemonades and
Some fruits.
yeah, fruits are good. Fruits are good only if with a vomiting child might not even like that.
Okay.
So, but yes, fruits, if the child's consuming fruits are also fine, but something which is light on the child's body. So, dal water, khichdis, or the regular simple Indian food is
Okay.
okay. And
I-
home days, rice and curd and things like that. Yeah. That time, I don't think you should be too much on, oh, the greens, oh, this,
Yeah,
oh, that.
yeah,
Yes, you
that's
can.
the point.
Yeah, you can't do that at that point of time. However, yes, avoid breads and maidas. That needs to be avoided because so many times we've seen children with biscuits coming, children with breads and maida. They're puking, but the only thing that they're sufficing themselves is with cookies and biscuits. So again, not that.
And milk also might not be a substitute. Not every child
Wants milk, and it's not about milk being a substitute to the food. So you can't do that as well. And coming to juices, no. Carbohydrate, fresh fruits and juices is a no. Fruits are fine then.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Any overall advice you would want to give to parents, new parents, seasoned parents, when it comes to their child, their growth, their development, and their nutrition?
Okay. So I think for newborns and for children in the first 2 years of life, it's important to keep visiting your pediatrician on the basis of what your pediatrician has advised you to for their routine vaccinations, for checking their head circumference,
circumstances, etc., bring development in the development of the child, their milestones, their growth.
are they growing in their length and in their weight. So that needs to be done, and I don't think that can be done at home.
Right.
So that only needs to be done in a pediatrician's
Absolutely.
clinic. So with nutrition, I think complementary feeding, it's not weaning, it's complementary feeding. So you add on food, you're not removing anything. So you add on food to breastfeeding and a fully breastfed child. So at 7 months of age, we start introducing food, thick porridge like food, not just pani and dal
Yeah.
ka pani and chawal ka pani, no, but good thick porridges need to be given to the child. And apart from that, when 1 year, the child should be with you on the table, eating a full meal with you, wherein you're regular. So whatever state you are, whatever culture you are from, whatever background you are from, and what is your homemade regular.
Okay.
But the basics will be your dals have to go, your greens have to go. Yes, a non-vegetarian kid can be eating non-veg food as well, and eggs for the protein as well. But then the fiber content has to be intact, so that then the bowel movements are good, and the child's having all the kinds of vitamins, carbohydrates, minerals, and the micronutrients that the child requires. Milk, as I said, should not be
Be a substitute. In fact, we also say no for milk nowadays because milk has caused unpasteurized milk causes something like brucellosis, and even with pasteurized milk,
that's not what the child should be sufficing of. We are a country of milk and a dairy country, so that's okay. But milk products, so paneer could be given, but not fried ones. So like a paneer in the parathas or in whatever form a paneer could be added to the diets, or tofu if your child's eating tofu, then and egg eating children. And then for vegetarian children, dals can be rotated. All dals can be rotated. It could be a moong dal, it could be a tur dal, it could be masoor, it could be, so all dals to be rotated with the chanas and rajmas and everything. So everything can go to the baby's nutrition in the best way possible.
Perfect.
And then the time. So you will have to discipline. So there's no clocks and calendars,
Right.
but then I think a basic discipline of breakfast, lunch, dinner should be there. That the child eats the breakfast on time, before school, half an hour before school, and then the lunch is with everybody at the appropriate lunchtime, and dinner, and then 2-3 hours later, generally 3 hours, right? If it doesn't happen, then fine. But then that gap before the sleep needs to be maintained. So the child can't be all the time picking up food from wherever and eating at random time. They just, with younger children it's fine, but then older children it's not okay, because they tend to be too much on tinned food and canned food and junks, and they're just picking up from everywhere. And then now in the western or in the urban class of children that we see, there's obesity as well. So that's where your schedules of eating also need to be maintained a little.
So discipline is the key word after the child has turned 1.
Yeah, before as well, but then
Yes. Like now it has to be kind of set in a regime whereby they understand their boundaries, their limitations, and giving them the freedom that they have.
Yes. And one more thing also, like I think I missed somewhere in the beginning, but lot of times mamas come and ask us that breast milk to be given in diarrhea or not. My child's vomiting, should I continue breast milk or not?
Okay.
And to those mothers with younger children, breast milk should not be stopped, because it's giving you the hydration to your child,
Okay.
and it's also giving you the nutrition to your child.
Okay.
So, and the immunity part is also going. So even if it's a diarrhea vomiting, do not stop the breast milk. Don't call it lactose intolerance and this and that and all that. It's not. A child can have a basic diarrhea vomiting, and it's okay it's okay to have a basic diarrhea vomiting. It's not something big all the time.
Right.
So yeah.
Breast milk is pure gold, and it's the safest thing to give to your child. Yes, yeah, coming from the safest source. So it's perfect.
I also.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Rujuta, for your invaluable advice, shared wisdom, and knowledge, which I think is of a great help to all the new parents, seasoned parents, as I may say, as seasoned as you may be. Sometimes, like I said, हर बच्चा अपना manual लेके आता है, and parents have endless questions. So I think most of them you've answered today. It's a nice guideline कि घर में क्या करें और डॉक्टर के पास कब जाएं. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
for having me. And it's always a pleasure to be with you and sharing this space with you on this podcast.
We are honored. Thank you so much. And to all you mothers, supporting partners, parents, grandparents, everybody out there, I hope this podcast you found valuable. And I hope ये knowledge आपको help करेगी आपके time में. बट अगर आपके पास कोई भी सवाल हैं जिनका हम आपको जवाब दे सकते हैं, आपकी कोई भी इश्यूज है जिसको हम आपके लिए सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, वी आर मोर देन हैप्पी टू बी हियर, guiding you always, being with you as your companion in your beautiful journey of parenthood. Thank you so much for your presence here today. God bless. Take care.